A CEO with the power to command entire boardrooms thought the honor guard at Arlington was just a group of costumed actors for tourist photos. But when she sprayed her $1,000 perfume right in a guard's face, the reaction that followed shattered far more than her pride. Before we continue, let us know where you're watching from. We read every comment. This is the Honor Guard, a channel dedicated to stories of duty, tradition, and the quiet courage that still lives on today. If you believe in the values that shape generations, honor, sacrifice, and respect, we invite you to subscribe. Every day we bring you true moments that remind us some things are still worth standing for. The day had dawned bright and clear over Arlington National Cemetery. The rolling lawns lined with rows upon rows of white marble headstones glimmered beneath the spring sunshine. A respectful hush hung over the place, broken only by the soft rustle of flags and the steady footfalls of those who came to honor the fallen. For Victoria Hargraves, CEO of a high-profile lifestyle empire, the setting felt like a tedious interruption in her glamorous routine. She was in town for a shareholders meeting running behind on a packed schedule, but her driver had made a wrong turn, and now she found herself stuck in a slow-moving line of pedestrians, all gathered to watch the honor guard change formation near the tomb of the unknown soldier. Victoria glanced at her Rolex, sighing dramatically. "These toy soldiers," she muttered to no one in particular. "Just get out of the way already." A young woman near her heard the remark and looked horrified. "Ma'am, please," she whispered, "show some respect." Victoria barely acknowledged her, shifting her weight impatiently in towering designer heels. An ivory pantsuit perfectly tailored, every diamond on her bracelet catching the sunlight. Around her, tourists fell silent as the first notes of ceremonial drums began to echo across the stone courtyard. The honor guard appeared pristine in their white dress uniforms, weapons at the ready, movement so perfect they seemed mechanical. Their march was not a performance, it was a living tradition, a tribute carried on since before Victoria's family had even founded their first fortune. She scoffed under her breath. "So dramatic," she mumbled. A boy nearby clutched an American flag and looked up to his grandfather. "Pop," he asked softly, "why are they so serious?" The old man, wearing a faded Korean War veteran's cap, smiled with quiet pride. "Because they stand for all the ones who can't stand anymore." Victoria rolled her eyes, crossing her arms. The scent of her designer perfume, a limited edition French fragrance, wafted sharply in the breeze. She had no patience for what she saw as a bunch of actors in costume, wasting her precious time. The honor guard reached their pivot point boots, striking in perfect rhythm, faces unreadable. A hush spread through the crowd as their rifles snapped to precise angles. It was discipline woven into ceremony, a visible thread connecting the present to generations long past. Victoria, bored, tapped at her phone, ignoring the beauty of the moment. Her eyes darted up with irritation as the unit approached closer. The guards made no acknowledgement of her presence, their movements flawless and exact. "Seriously," she hissed. "They're going to just ignore me." The veteran heard her again and gently spoke. "Ma'am, please, this is sacred. Let them finish." She turned on him with the withering glare that had reduced countless underlings to silence in conference rooms. "I'm not waiting on some toy soldier show," she snapped. And then an idea bloomed, ugly, entitled, and unstoppable. Victoria reached into her handbag and pulled out the perfume bottle, a tall crystal flacon that cost more than some people's cars. She tested the sprayer, smiling to herself. "If he wants to stand there like a mannequin," she growled under her breath, "then let's see if he can handle this." A young tourist gasped, "Wait, you're not." But Victoria ignored her. Her finger hovered over the atomizer. She was about to break a line of respect, centuries strong, convinced there would be no consequence, no retaliation, because in her world, money and power had always guaranteed a way out. She took one step forward, bottle aimed, ready to disrupt tradition with a single entitled squeeze. Little did she know, in the next few seconds, her designer life was about to come crashing down, along with her smile, her ego, and one of her perfect porcelain white teeth. The hush of the crowd seemed to tremble on the edge of disaster as Victoria Hargrave advanced the perfume bottle, held like a dagger in her manicured hand. The onlookers could barely believe what they were seeing. A murmur rippled through the visitors. Parents pulled their children closer, shielding them from what was about to unfold. The rhythmic footsteps of the honor guard did not falter, a relentless tide of discipline, bearing down on a single arrogant soul. Victoria's lips curled into a smirk, the same one she'd perfected in hostile boardrooms. She had made grown men cry with that look alone. Surely these costume actors would break under it. But the guard in front, a tall, square-jawed young Marine, with eyes fixed straight ahead, didn't even glance at her. His steps were unwavering, each landing with the certainty of centuries behind them. "Hey," Victoria barked, raising the perfume bottle higher. "I'm talking to you." No reaction. She sneered. "Figures, you're just a prop." The older veteran tried once more, stepping forward with the quiet authority of a man who'd seen too many sacrifices to tolerate disrespect. "Ma'am, I'm asking you as a fellow American, don't do this." Victoria turned on him with a glare that could have curdled fresh milk. "Why don't you mind your own business, Grandpa?" He stiffened, pain flashing across his lined face, but he said nothing more. He had learned in war that some people only learn from hard consequences. Victoria's grin widened, triumphant, as if she'd scored a point. The honor guard closed the distance, boots ringing out on the courtyard stones like a living heartbeat. They moved with perfect synchronization, eyes locked forward, weapons steady, each man carrying the unspoken weight of tradition on his shoulders. It only enraged her more. "How dare you ignore me?" she hissed. Then with a quick, theatrical flourish, she depressed the atomizer. A burst of expensive French perfume misted straight into the guard's face, a cloud of arrogance and floral spice, cloying and aggressive. The tourist gasped in horror. The guard didn't flinch. His expression never changed. His boots never paused. His weapon never dipped. It was as if he were a marble statue, immune to her petty attempt at humiliation. Victoria's voice rose into a shriek. "Smell it! I said smell it!" The guard remained a wall of military bearing, unmoved, unstoppable. She tried again, jabbing the bottle closer to his face. "You think you're so tough? Smell this." A ripple of disgust moved through the crowd. The boy with the flag squeezed his grandfather's hand, eyes wide. "Pop, is he gonna stop?" The old man shook his head slowly. "No, son, he won't stop. That's not what they do." The Marine's next step brought his shoulder directly in line with Victoria's raised arm. Without hesitation, without even acknowledging her presence, he executed a precisely trained pivot, a subtle shift that placed the full, unstoppable momentum of his disciplined march against her. His shoulder connected with her elbow in a quick, perfectly judged impact, not violent, but firm enough to break her stance and send the perfume bottle flying from her hand. It arced in the sunlight like a cheap trophy before shattering against the stone. Victoria gasped, caught completely off guard, arms pinwheeling for balance. The guard moved on without a backward glance, his boots ringing steady and perfect as the rest of the unit followed seamlessly behind. A chorus of hushed reactions moved through the onlookers. "She had it coming," someone whispered. The security guard on duty stepped forward, eyes wide. "Ma'am, step back now." But Victoria barely heard him. Her gaze locked on the slick of perfume spreading across the polished stone, the shards of crystal glittering like fallen pride. And then she saw her own reflection, twisted, furious, humiliated, a woman who tried to command the world but couldn't command the respect of a single soldier. As the honor guard advanced, boots cutting through the echo of her failure, Victoria felt something shift under her designer heel. The perfume had made the marble slick. Her foot began to slide, and gravity, like discipline, showed no mercy. The moment seemed to slow, as if the entire courtyard collectively held its breath. Victoria's heel skidded on the slick puddle of her own perfume, a fatal miscalculation written in floral mist. She flailed trying to catch herself, but the momentum of her expensive heels and the polished marble conspired against her. The perfume's glass shards sparkled like tiny knives under her feet, and her ankle twisted with a sickening snap of protest. For the first time in what felt like years, fear flashed across Victoria's sculpted face. She tried to catch herself with one hand, but the stone was too close, too unforgiving. Her knees buckled. A sharp cry tore from her throat as she pitched forward, arms outstretched. Time seemed to fracture, letting her glimpse the honor guard's backs unwavering, receding from her as they continued their perfect march. They would not turn, would not acknowledge her, would not break tradition for her embarrassment. The next moment, Victoria's face slammed against the marble with a jarring, hollow sound that echoed through the courtyard. Crack. Pain flared like a supernova through her mouth. The taste of blood flooded her tongue, sharp and coppery. She screamed in shock and horror, hands flying to her mouth. Her front tooth, perfect, whitened by the best cosmetic dentist money could buy, was gone. Shattered. A bright white fragment lay on the marble in a growing pool of perfume and tears. Gasps spread through the tourists. A woman covered her child's eyes. Someone else stepped forward to help, but hesitated, afraid of interfering with the honor guard's route. Victoria staggered, trying to push herself up, one heel broken, makeup streaked with tears and sweat. Her voice rose in a raw, panicked wail. "My tooth. My tooth." The security officer who had been trying to control the scene rushed forward. "Ma'am, stay where you are. We'll get medical." But Victoria slapped his arm away, consumed by a twisted cocktail of shame and rage. "Don't touch me," she shrieked. "He assaulted me. Did you see what he did?" The officer looked back at the honor guard, their formation unbroken, the leader's steps, never wavering eyes ahead with the solemn weight of their duty. "He didn't touch you, ma'am," the officer replied firmly. "You slipped." Victoria's voice was unrecognizable now, cracked and small. "He made me slip. He should have stopped." The veteran, still standing nearby, stepped forward. "Ma'am," he said gently, "these soldiers never stop. That is their oath. That is their promise." She shot him a look that could have shattered glass if it had been sharper than her pride. "You're all against me," she roared, wiping blood from her lips with trembling hands. A teenage girl in the crowd phone, still recording, whispered, "That's what you get, Karen." Victoria spun to glare at her, but pain cut the movement short. She doubled over, clutching her jaw, tears spilling down her cheeks. Her perfume pooled around the broken tooth, mingling the floral sweetness with the acrid bite of humiliation. Somewhere in the distance, the drums continued their steady rhythm. The honor guard pivoted again, their perfect formation, gliding along the ceremonial route with the same unstoppable grace as always. They did not look back. They would not look back. Victoria tried to stand, but the twisted ankle screamed in protest, sending her sprawling again to the ground. The expensive ivory pantsuit she had chosen to project power was now streaked with dirt, perfume, and a hint of blood. For the first time in her life, there was no assistant to rescue her, no PR team to spin the story, no executive board to protect her from consequences. She was simply there, a woman on the ground, wailing over a broken tooth and a bruised ego while the world watched. The veteran stepped closer, sadness in his eyes. "Ma'am," he said softly, "this place isn't yours to command." Victoria tried to answer, but the pain and humiliation choked her words. She could only sob, hand pressed to her mouth, feeling the raw emptiness where perfection used to sit. In the growing hush, the honor guard stood at their final post, rifles presented, chins lifted high, guardians of a tradition older and stronger than any CEO's entitlement. They had marched through her arrogance the way they'd marched through generations of history, steady, unbroken, untouched. Victoria's cries echoed through the courtyard, but the soldiers gave her nothing. No pity, no apology, no weakness. Just the perfect silence of discipline, reminding everyone who watched that some things could never be bought and could never be bent. The smell of crushed rose and amber clung to the air, mingled with the metallic tang of blood. Victoria stayed hunched over, cradling her mouth as tears rolled down her cheeks. The once mighty CEO who had barked orders from penthouses and threatened world leaders over dinner tables was now reduced to a trembling, humiliated figure, sprawled on the stone of a sacred place. Tourists shifted awkwardly around her, some still filming, others averting their eyes out of a sense of decency. But no one reached down to help her, not after what they'd seen. She tried to get up again, struggling to put weight on her twisted ankle, but a fresh surge of pain sent her crashing down a second time, her good hands scrabbling for support. The security guard knelt beside her, a mix of professionalism and pity in his eyes. "Ma'am, you need to remain still. You could be more badly hurt than you think." Victoria spat a garbled protest through bloody lips. "Get off me!" He pulled back his hands, calm but firm. "I'm just trying to help you, ma'am." She tried to stand a third time, teeth gritted against the pain, but the courtyard had turned traitor. The spilled perfume made the marble slick, and her heel caught again, sending her lurching forward. She landed on her hands hard enough to make her shoulders sting, her hair falling forward in a chaotic blonde mess. A second cry burst from her lips as another jolt of pain rocked her already bruised jaw. The veteran stepped closer, voice even and solemn. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "I know it hurts, but you have to calm down. Let them help you." Victoria twisted toward him, hatred flashing through tear-streaked eyes. You think this is my fault?" He did not flinch. "Yes," he said, honest and heavy, "it is." She opened her mouth to rage back at him, but the only sound that came out was a pathetic, broken sob. The honor guard continued their silent watch, their crisp white gloves resting on polished rifle stocks, chins up, chests squared to the flag. Their ceremonial precision remained perfect, utterly untouched by the chaos a few feet away. One mother whispered to her daughter, "Honey, this is why we have to respect them." The girl nodded, wide-eyed, hugging her mother's side. Victoria's gaze flicked to the crowd, her CEO instincts desperate to claw back her narrative to find anyone to blame. But no one was nodding along with her this time. No one was taking her side. She was alone, truly alone in a sea of silent witnesses. A paramedic finally arrived, uniform crisp and blue, carrying a small red trauma pack. He knelt down and spoke with an empathy that was at once professional and distant. "Ma'am, I'm going to take a look at that tooth. Please hold still." Victoria tried to yank away. "No, don't touch me, I'm fine." He raised an eyebrow. "Ma'am, you're bleeding from the mouth, you can't stand, and you're clearly in shock. You need medical care." Victoria's shoulders sagged. Another humiliating sob broke free. She couldn't stop it. The paramedic gently pried her hand away from her mouth. Her front tooth was sheared nearly in half, the jagged edge stained with blood. Her gums were already swelling. "You'll need a dentist," the paramedic said carefully. "Today." Victoria felt her world tilt. I have a board meeting tonight," she babbled. "They can't see me like this. I can't. The paramedic gave her a neutral, steady look. "Your meeting will have to wait. You need medical attention first." Tears streamed down her face, mixing with sweat and makeup. "They'll think I'm weak," she choked. The paramedic didn't react. "Better weak than infected," he replied calmly. Behind them, the honor guard continued their solemn, perfect routine. The moment of pivot, the ceremonial steps, the rifle movement, everything unchanged. Nothing about Victoria's meltdown had left a mark on their discipline. Nothing could. She watched them, still dazed, and some part of her seemed to break all over again. These soldiers, they didn't care about boardrooms or stock prices. They didn't tremble before perfume bottles or social media tantrums. They served something higher, and it showed in every single movement. The security officer gently approached again. "Ma'am, Arlington Police will be coming to get a statement. You can wait with them, or we can take you to a medical clinic." Victoria felt a fresh wave of dread. "Police?" "Yes, ma'am," the officer explained. "Spraying a member of the honor guard, even with perfume, is considered interference with a ceremonial duty. She shook her head wildly, hair flying. No, 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 you can't. I'm a CEO. I have rights. The officer kept a professional calm. Ma'am, you do have rights, and they'll explain them to you. A stunned hush spread through the onlookers. The crowd had witnessed the entire fall from beginning to end, from designer confidence to blood-streaked humiliation. It was a cautionary tale, a modern-day fable playing out in real time. And at its center stood the honor guard, resolute, steady, representing something even Victoria couldn't buy respect. The sharp tang of broken perfume still hung in the air as Victoria tried to pull herself together. Blood dripped slowly from the corner of her mouth, staining the polished marble where her pride had shattered. She dabbed at it with a trembling hand, her voice brittle as cracked glass. Somebody needs to arrest that man, she wailed, jabbing a finger in the direction of the honor guard, who stood in perfect formation, unmoved and unshaken. The police officers who had arrived a moment before looked at her evenly, their professional calm utterly unshaken. One, a middle-aged officer with salt and pepper hair, tried to reason with her. Ma'am, the guards followed protocol. You stepped into their path and sprayed something directly in a soldier's face. That is interference with military personnel. Victoria's eyes burned with rage, shining with unshed tears. Interference. He knocked me down. He destroyed my tooth. I'm a CEO. I have money. I have lawyers. The officer's tone didn't change. Ma'am, you can absolutely contact your attorney, but multiple witnesses confirm you sprayed perfume at a ceremonial guard. That is considered assault on an active duty service member. Victoria's jaw dropped, sending a new jolt of pain through her broken tooth. Assault me. The officer nodded gravely. Yes, ma'am. The veteran stepped forward, voice, steady eyes, sad but firm. Ma'am, he said gently, these men stand for the people who can't stand anymore. You don't get to treat them like a stage prop. Victoria shot him a glare that could have scorched earth. They're actors. They're for tourists. He shook his head slowly, disappointment deepening the lines in his face. They're soldiers. You dishonored them. She recoiled as if the word dishonor was a slap across her perfect cheekbones. You can't talk to me like that. I'm Victoria Hargrave. The name, usually a key to open any door, felt small and useless here. One of the police officers sighed. Ma'am, you'll need to come with us to give a statement. You'll also need medical treatment right away. That tooth could get infected. Victoria whimpered, still cradling her jaw, glancing desperately around for anyone to side with her. But the crowd had gone quiet, their eyes filled with a mix of awe for the honor guard and shock at her meltdown. A teenager muttered under his breath, phone still rolling video. That's what you get, Karen. She whirled toward him, hatred flaring in her good eye. Delete that. You have no right. He simply shrugged. Free country. The paramedic stepped in again, voice gentle but resolute. Ma'am, I'm going to help you stand. You really do need a dentist today. Victoria tried to protest, but another wave of pain stole her breath. The ache in her face seemed to reach all the way to her skull. She allowed the paramedic to help her rise, though her ankle buckled again, forcing him to catch her elbow. Her once impeccable ivory pantsuit was smeared with dirt, perfume, and a smear of bright red lipstick gone wrong. Her designer heels, scuffed beyond repair, clacked uselessly on the stone. The police officer gently guided her toward the edge of the courtyard. You can sit down over here, ma'am. You'll be checked over by medical staff, then we can talk. Victoria shook her head, voice cracking. No, I have a meeting at 3. I can't be late. The officer was polite but unmoved. Ma'am, I'm afraid you'll have to reschedule. The honor guards, still visible behind her, completed their pivot and returned to their ceremonial watch as if nothing had happened. Their shoulders were straight, their eyes forward, their discipline perfect. It was as if Victoria had never existed, as if her tantrum were a fleeting breeze against the centuries of tradition they represented. The older veteran stepped closer, leaning down to speak softly so only she could hear. Ma'am, he said, there are some places money can't buy. Respect is one of them. Victoria closed her eyes, tears spilling again, the shame of his words cutting deeper than any lawyer's cross-examination. Just get me out of here, she whispered, defeated. The paramedic helped her to a bench, gently lowering her. The ache in her face made her dizzy. She reached for her phone only to see the screen shattered beyond recognition, a final insult on top of the day's humiliations. A new group of tourists filtered into the courtyard, their faces sobering as they took in the sight of the honor guard standing immovable. They didn't notice Victoria. They only saw the soldiers. One little girl tugged on her father's sleeve. "Daddy, are those real soldiers?" He nodded, eyes bright. "The realest there is." Victoria's shoulders slumped under the weight of that truth. Nothing she could say, no money she could throw, no phone call she could make would ever change it. In the marble silence of the cemetery, the message was painfully clear. You do not disrespect the fallen. You do not disrespect those who guard them. And if you try, the world will remember. Victoria sat on the edge of the granite bench, trying desperately to wipe the tears from her mascara-streaked cheeks while cradling her broken tooth. Each throb of pain felt like a hammer blow to her skull, an unrelenting reminder of how far she'd just fallen. The paramedic stayed nearby, watching for signs of shock. The police officer stood guard politely but firmly, making sure she did not try to leave without speaking to them first. Victoria's mind spun, clinging to her sense of power like a drowning person clings to driftwood. She was Victoria Hargrave after all, CEO, tastemaker, billionaire, a woman who had made entire corporations tremble. How could they treat her like this? But every time she started to rage, her gaze would flick back to the honor guard, still standing, rifles, steady boots polished to a mirror sheen. Their posture was carved in stone, eyes forward, the perfect symbol of everything she could never bend to her will. Another police officer approached this one younger with a calm and steady tone. "Ma'am, I understand this is upsetting, but I need you to confirm what happened. Witnesses have given their statements." Victoria tried to fix her lipstick-smeared mouth into something confident, but the pain pulsed through her jaw again. He hit me on purpose." The officer made a note completely neutral. "So you're saying the guard deliberately injured you?" Victoria hesitated. The crowd was still there. Phone cameras still pointed at her. She could practically feel the public scorn weighing down her shoulders. He wouldn't stop," she stammered. "I told him to smell my perfume and he ran into me." The officer looked unimpressed. "Ma'am, ceremonial guards do not break their march for civilians. You stepped directly in his path, correct?" Her voice cracked, humiliated. "He should have gone around me. I'm an American taxpayer." The veteran, who had been quietly observing, spoke up, his voice like granite. "Ma'am, no soldier serving under that flag will ever break formation for your perfume or your money or even your pride. That's what makes them worthy of guarding this place." Victoria glared at him, a spark of rage left even through her humiliation. "Don't lecture me, old man. You don't know who I am." He looked almost sorry for her. "Ma'am, that's the problem. You don't know where you are." She looked away, blinking back tears. The younger officer sighed, professional but unyielding. "Ma'am, because you interfered with an active duty honor guard performing ceremonial duty, and because you sprayed a foreign substance in his face, you are subject to charges of disturbing the peace and interfering with military personnel." Victoria jolted in shock. "Charges against me?" The officer nodded. "You are not under arrest, but you will need to answer to a judge. You may also face a fine and a temporary ban from federal memorial sites." She felt the world spinning. "This is insane. I'll destroy you people in court," she hissed, the last flicker of her pride flashing through bloody teeth. The officer kept a calm, sympathetic distance. "That is your right, ma'am." Behind them, the honor guard pivoted once more, boots pounding in the exact measured cadence passed down through generations. The crowd's eyes followed them, ignoring Victoria, as if the entire earth had shifted away from her drama and toward the eternal rhythm of sacrifice. A TV news crew had arrived, capturing the scene with a huge camera rig. A woman in a blazer was talking breathlessly into her microphone, pointing at Victoria, the broken perfume bottle, the security perimeter. Victoria felt her stomach turn over. No, not the news, not like this. She tried to hide her face behind one shaky hand, but the paramedic gently touched her shoulder. Ma'am, you still need a dentist. Your tooth looks badly fractured, and you may have a jaw sprain. Don't touch me, she spat, half sobbing, half snarling. He backed off, used to ungrateful patience. We'll stand by until you're ready. Victoria's pride was in tatters. Her teeth ached, her ankle ached, her public image was in ruins, and the soldiers she'd tried to shame hadn't even blinked. The police officer continued gently. Ma'am, please collect your personal effects. The Arlington Administrative Office will call you within a few days about your hearing date. Victoria, too drained to argue, nodded stiffly. She tried to rise, wobbling on her ruined heels, holding her jaw protectively. The paramedic steadied her. Easy, he murmured, ignoring her protests. Victoria finally let herself be guided toward the ambulance. In that moment, one last look over her shoulder showed the honor guard again, unmoved, invincible, standing for everything she could never buy. For the first time, it seemed to click somewhere deep inside her. They served something bigger than money, something stronger than ego, something worth standing for. Victoria Hargrave had always believed respect could be bought. But in the courtyard that day, standing on stones stained with centuries of honor, she realized the hard way that some things cannot be purchased, only earned. Later that evening, as the sun dipped low over Arlington's fields of white marble, the courtyard had returned to its solemn, dignified hush. New visitors arrived, stepping respectfully into the presence of the honor guard, who stood unwavering in their perfect discipline. No trace remained of Victoria's perfume. The shards of her expensive bottle had been swept away. Her name was already fading from the lips of the tourists who'd witnessed her collapse, as the memory of her tantrum paled next to the enduring power of tradition. The honor guard's boots rang out, steady and sure, each step measured by the weight of centuries. Their eyes did not dart, their posture did not falter. They embodied something that would outlive any single scandal, any single outburst, something no amount of money or power could break. Among the tourists, the same boy who'd clutched his grandfather's hand hours earlier returned, eyes wide, as he took in the ceremony once more. Pop, he asked softly, do you think she'll come back? The old veteran, still wearing his worn Korean war cap, shook his head. Maybe, he said gently, but I hope she remembers. Because respect isn't about money, it's about knowing where you stand and who you stand for. The boy nodded, squeezing his grandfather's fingers tighter. Near the ropes, a young couple talked quietly. The woman looked to her husband and asked, can you imagine doing that, spraying perfume in their faces? He shook his head. No way, those men are heroes. They deserve better. The woman sighed. People forget too easily. He gave a small smile. The guard doesn't let them forget. The drumline sounded again, crisp and powerful. Tourists fell silent. Cameras raised respectfully. There would be no meltdown today. No woman with perfume. Just the steady beat of boots and the silent vow of those who stand watch over the memory of the fallen. In a nearby news broadcast, Victoria's face flickered on the screen, bandaged and humiliated, escorted from the scene. Reporters speculated about legal charges, about her company's stock price, about her PR team's efforts to spin the story. But for most who saw the footage, those details felt meaningless. All they would remember was the woman who tried to humiliate an honor guard and who found herself in a dentist's chair instead. It was a lesson etched in public shame. Respect is not optional. The honor guard did not stand for her. They did not stand for applause. They stood for every name carved into cold stone behind them, names that demanded something more than casual selfies and social media brags. As the drums echoed one final time, the old veteran saluted. The boy beside him copied the gesture, small hand raised in shaky reverence. That's what a hero looks like, the veteran whispered voice, hoarse with memory. The honor guard's rifles gleamed, catching the fading rays of sunset, the final note of the day's tribute. Victoria Hargrave might never understand what true service meant. She might never grasp why the honor guard would let nothing, not money, not threats, not even perfume break their line. But everyone who saw it would remember. And someday, when they told the story of a CEO who tried to buy respect and ended up paying with her dignity and her tooth, they would also remember the soldiers who kept marching forward unbroken. Because no matter how loud arrogance tries to shout, no matter how much wealth tries to command, honor never bows. If you have ever witnessed a moment where respect was defended or where someone learned a hard lesson about tradition, we want to hear from you. Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you value the courage and dedication of those who stand guard, like this video and subscribe for more incredible stories of valor, discipline, and the power of tradition. Tomorrow we'll be back with another tale to remind you why some values can never be bought. Until then, remember, some lessons come with a bill you can't pay, and sometimes they cost more than a broken tooth.